Hi guys, welcome back. Long time no see. I know it's been over a year since I've posted, but there's been a lot going on in the culture and it's time for me to come back. I did the wife thing, I did the lawyer thing, all that, yeah. But we've got things to talk about, so tap in. Today we're talking about Doechii's monumental Grammy win and what that means for her as an artist. And I wanted to reflect on the journey she's been on, because you might remember around 2 years ago, I made a video on this channel called We Need to Talk About Doechii. And it seems now in 2025, we need to talk about Doechii again. So if you're interested in watching, stick around and let's get into it. So Miss Doechii at the 2025 Grammys, she won Best Rap Album with Alligator Bites Never Heal. If you want to see a full track-by-track breakdown and review of the album, then head to Ghostwriter.com. The link to the article is in the description. Overall, I thought Alligator Bites Never Heal was a really wonderful project in terms of an expression of herself. And there's definitely what I have recognized with Doechii is not only an evolution of her artistry, but I actually think very much a visual and conceptual evolution. And I do think, her success and her rise, if we really look at 2023 to now, I do think that has been influenced by her revamping her brand, revamping her image, and also clarifying who she is to her new audiences. I feel with female rap artists, they really do struggle with the aesthetic. I think the aesthetic branding of themselves is possibly one of the biggest challenges, because the public, the general public, I'm talking about the untrained, uneducated public, they have an image in their mind of what a woman rapping should look like, what a woman rapping should say. And I do feel, at least for the earlier parts of her entering, let's call it I don't want to say the public scene, because she was always there, but I'm saying when she transitioned from underground artist to more pop artist, you can definitely see her first iteration of Doechii, the pop artist, I would argue was quite in line with the traditional female rapper aesthetic. Her hair, her makeup, her styling, even the physical presentation of her body. I think it definitely did lend to the traditional look, right? But I also think that it didn't necessarily distinguish her from anyone else. And something that really stood out to me was on TikTok after the Grammys, people were talking and commenting on old clips of Doechii, right? Because you'll always get this thing where people are suddenly figuring out that they were listening to that artist the whole time. And when I was looking at people watching videos of Doechii performing in 2023, she was performing her song, What It Is. If you don't know, it's one that goes, what it is, what's up, that song. And people were in the comments saying, oh my God, this isn't Victoria Monet. And that really shocked me, because it was like, wow, you genuinely couldn't distinguish her from anyone else. And I think that she did the right thing for herself by taking that change in direction and changing how she appeared and actually giving herself a unique, identifiable look that makes people point and say, yes, that's Doechii. And I think she was smart to do that. I do think that was beneficial for her. But there is another conversation within that. And I think those of us who have been around since 2020, we probably feel, I don't want to say that she's changed, but I wonder if we feel like she had to leave something behind to get where she's at. So the thing I really want to talk about is, why did Doechii have to change? And if she didn't change how she presented herself, would she have reached the achievement she's reached now? Would it have taken her longer to get there? So I guess today's conversation is really about artistry and what it takes an artist to reach, let's call it the upper echelon, the Grammys, international recognition for your work. And did Doechii have to divorce some parts of herself and the way that she presented in her early years in order to get where she is now? I think it's way more complicated than she just changed her look. I do think there was intentionality in the choices that she made, and I think it's worthwhile discussing it. I want to tap in a good friend of the channel, Chino Esco, to get his opinion. So basically what we're talking about is, do we feel like Doechii had to change her presentation in order to essentially get to her Grammy win? Because I was talking about how when I was on TikTok, I saw people commenting under videos of her performing What It Is in 2023, saying they didn't know she wasn't Victoria Monet. That really surprised me. So I wanted to get into that and say, what changed from that then in 2023 to 2025 or 2024 with Alligator Bites Never Heal? And did she have to do that to be successful, in your opinion?
I think that there was more of an intention in regards to the Victoria Monet aspect. I don't think they necessarily would have had Victoria Monet in their mind per se. I think like that comment was more so just relating Doechii to Victoria because of maybe some similarities in like their melodies. I think Doechii is very versatile. She showcased early on that she could give us a melodic pop or pop rap type of record with persuasive. So I think that's really
And she said it on Nissan Altima as well. Like she said, I can give everything, I can do anything, you know?
Yeah, so I think with this project, it's just a lot more focused on the bars, her image, and as far as like the preppy look, I think goes alongside the theme of her being a student of the culture, like she said in some of her interviews. So I do think that if she wanted to be recognized more as what she's presenting herself as, maybe yes, she had to divorce some of those melodic aspects a bit so that there can be more of an intention focusing on like her rap skills and her love for the craft.
Do you think her image now, was it designed to be clean and palatable, to use those words? Or do you think it was designed to really focus her character in hip hop? Like to say, the character of Doechii is somebody who studied the game and is really intentionally learning and developing? Or do you think it was more so I don't want to say a political decision, but do you think the image she has now is just simply easier to sell than yucky blucky fruitcake Doechii, or crazy she her black bitch Doechii, or persuasive Doechii when she's looking like an alien and she's like all naked and shit? Do you think it's easier to sell this iteration of her? Or do you think it was actually done so, like you mentioned, from an artistic place?
I don't think either or are necessarily challenging per se. I do think like in her presentation now, is it necessarily easier to sell? No, but is it palatable? Yes. I think female rap there's always gonna be a challenge there when it comes to like how you present them to people, because people project what they feel about women naturally to them and pick and choose what type of woman they want to see presented and represents all women, which is foolish because these girls represent themselves first and foremost, and the girls that look like them and are inspired by them, and if anything, they represent the people that they may even be inspired by. So when it comes to, it being easier, I don't know if I would say that, but palatable, yes, because I do think there is a demographic of hip hop fans that want to see a more reserved, conservative, refined woman that has, a certain level head on her shoulders, educated, and intentionally thoughtful with her words, self-conscious, all the Lauryn Hill vibes,
But
her creativity in terms of like her alien, or out of the box type of shit, like crazy and stuff, there's room for that as well, because there was, also the reverence for Missy Elliott and Nicki Minaj as well at some point when it came to those aspects in female rap. I think it's just going to be, it makes it challenging, I think, for her specifically in the beginning was, I think, more giving her a genuine focus or genuine spotlight with the platform that she has with TDE. I don't think that they gave her this the same necessary focus or push.
When we were getting Persuasive and What It Is, I don't feel like there was as much clarity and intention, at least from the label side, that we have now.
For her being barred up, maybe that, but for her being a bitch that could make a hit, they had that there, but they didn't have, this bitch is really a student of the craft, and with the inspirations of Old Dirty Bastard.
And I had all of, like, the Wu-Tang influences all over Alligator Bites Never Heal. I thought that was really special. Do you think that when she was interpolating Roman and those types of sounds, people didn't appreciate that? So what I'm saying is, was she a student of the game when the person she was obviously studying was Nicki Minaj? Or is she a student of the game now because she's reflecting more of an old school hip hop head idea of who you should be studying as a student in the game? Does that make sense as a question?
No, it makes 100% sense, and I would say yes and maybe no for some. The reason why I would say yes is because, with the obvious hip hop and its misogynistic issues, and I believe you got a video on that too.
Yes.
Everybody should check that out. It's very apparent that, like I even said earlier, men give respect to the women. Some men give respect to the women that they like, or as versus the women that they may not feel like they can have access to. I think Nicki and her run and her legacy, lyrically speaking, and you can take that in other forms, but let's just focus on the music. I think she very much so established herself as a boss, and I think that is very intimidating for a lot of the men in that space. So when it comes to, I think, some of the women we've seen after Nicki that have been awarded and celebrated, like Doechii has, especially when it pertains to the Academy, I think that also has something to do with that as well. Maybe accessibility that some of the men feel when it comes to the women that are presented, and that being a cue to how much they want to support them. So I think she is a student of the craft, most definitely, when she's tapping into the likes of Wu-Tang and certain people that hip hop maybe enthusiasts or traditionalists might uphold to being the golden age of hip hop, which rightfully so, I believe Wu-Tang is part of that era. So her being able to interpolate those parts of, the culture's history in a contemporary way is meaningful for a lot of them. But when I think in comparison to Nicki, it gets funny because Nicki has a legacy that undeniably is great, and with the controversies that it entails, considering maybe some of the greats that she's been able to pass in terms of success or even skill, I don't think hip hop has fully done its just due in recognizing what that is. So I don't think that they're able to validate when somebody is a student of the craft once they've learned the craft from Nicki Minaj, once they've been able to maybe find their voice or find a love for it even through her music and her presentation. So I think Nicki, and even the culture or the subculture of the barbs in the entire, in the entirety of it all, is something that is still not fully recognized or
understood or appreciated.
And that as well, yes.
Facts. Well, thank you so much, Esco. We'll tap you in on our next topic, but thank you so much for chatting to me.
Thank you for having me.
For those of you who don't know, Chino Esco is actually managing all of the No Ghostwriter Twitter accounts, and he's also on the Instagram. So whenever you want to hop into a space just to have a chat about the culture, or if you're an artist and you want to share your music on our platform, then make sure that you hit us up. All the contact information is in the bio, but if you send a DM to us on Twitter or Instagram, no_ghostwriter, then we'll get back to you. To wrap up this video with my girl Doechii is, first of all, I want to tell her absolutely congratulations, because for those of us who've watched her growth from 2020, this is somebody who wanted to be an artist, who wanted to make special music, who wanted to connect to the world through her art, and she achieved that. And that's not a small feat. And I think you've got to give her her snaps and give her her props for that. The hip hop head conversation I want to have is really about, like I talked about with Chino Esco, this idea of student of the game. What game should somebody be seen to study in order to be seen as successful in hip hop? When I say that, it's not to discredit her as an artist, because it's quite evident from her versatility. She's inspired by a multitude of things. But I'm not so much talking about Doechii herself. I'm also talking about the narrative around Doechii, because I can't help but notice that everywhere where I see praise for Doechii, I'm also seeing people say, now a certain someone is going to be knocked out of the way. And that disappoints me, because it makes me realize that in so much as where every year it was looking for someone to replace Nicki Minaj, there is no growth. I genuinely don't think there is much cultural growth in terms of knowledge and understanding of the female rap subculture and the individuals who are and have been represented by Nicki Minaj coming on the scene. I think Nicki Minaj's theater, her vocal performance, her animation, all of those things, you can very much see that DNA in Doechii's performance and in her art. But I wonder whether, were she to be open and vocal about that now, as she was at the beginning, it would hurt her or it would help her. Is it the case now that any female rapper that is influenced by Nicki Minaj's sound can't say that? They can't acknowledge that? They can't be seen as a student of the game if it's her game that they study? And I feel that way because I've watched and I've seen where Doechii started and I've seen where Doechii is now. And I see people's perception of her. And I see the way, once again, it appears to be that there is an artistic divorce, essentially, that needs to happen in order for a female rapper to transcend and ascend. And it seems to be that they have to divorce themselves from attaching their artistry to anything to do with Nicki Minaj's artistry. And sometimes I wonder, is that an unfair view? Is it true? But I do think that there's something in there. So the lesson, I think, the lesson to take away from, if you're an artist watching Doechii and you're wondering, what do I need to do to get to that place? I would say there are 3 things that you can learn from Doechii and her success. First of all is, don't be afraid to go on an artistic journey. I don't think that anybody can deny that Doechii's been on a journey. And I think seeing her from where she began to where she is now, you can definitely see somebody who intentionally thought about every step. So that's really something that is to be applauded. And the second thing you can learn from Doechii is surround yourself with your peers. You know, something that I noticed and I think is really, really good is the amount of female rappers she actually worked with and has worked with. She's got credits with a lot of girls. And I think that's really good, because rather than, yes, be competitive, yes, you know, be the best and everything, and she still has her braggadocious lyrics, but I do think it's powerful and impactful that she's worked with so many of her peers, people who are at the same level as her. And I think that what you want to do as an artist is, yes, it's amazing to get a Nicki Minaj feature. Yes, it's amazing to get a Drake feature. Yes, it's amazing to get, you know, all of these things, but are you working with your peers? Like, look around you and work with who's there, because then you can actually introduce yourself to an audience that's already there, because they're already listening to people who are similar to you. And I think the third thing we can learn from Doechii is to, even though it can be difficult, don't be afraid to evolve yourself. People may know you and see you as one thing, or you might try something and it doesn't work, but that's okay. Know who you are, continue to push and develop who you are, and don't be afraid to go back to the drawing board and reinvent yourself. And I think Doechii's success is a real testament to the power of intention, reinvention. So again, shout out to Doechii. Super congratulations. Alligator Bites Never Heal was an amazing mixtape. We're very much looking forward to seeing what else comes up from you and the future for you. And to all of you who are new to listening to Doechii, welcome. Welcome to the family. But thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure that you check out noghostwriter.com, sign up for our mailing list so that you can get updated on all of our posts and our playlist updates. And make sure that you follow us on all of our socials, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. The info is below. Shout out to you guys, as always, for supporting the channel, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.